The highway was unusually silent for a Friday night, the kind of silence that made Mia's nerves tighten even before she pulled into the dimly lit gas station. The sign above the roof hissed and flickered, buzzing like a trapped insect, casting uneven shadows across the cracked pavement. Her old sedan rolled to a stop beside Pump 4, its engine coughing before finally falling quiet. Inside the car, her 6-year-old son, Leo, slept curled up under a faded Spider-Man blanket, tiny chest rising and falling softly. Mia glanced at him, brushing a stray curl from his forehead before stepping out into the cold air. She wrapped her thin jacket tighter around herself. She was running on fumes, both literally and emotionally, and the last thing she expected was trouble. She just needed fuel, 10 minutes, and a quiet drive home. The moment she slid her card into the machine, she felt it, the hair-raising sensation of being watched. 3 men loitered near a blacked-out SUV at the far end of the lot, smoking, laughing loudly, and eyeing her like she had wandered into their territory. One nudged the other and pointed at her. Their grins stretched wide, the kind that made her stomach knot. "Hey sweetheart," one of them called, sauntering toward her with a swagger that oozed trouble. "You out here all alone this late?" Mia stiffened but kept her eyes on the pump screen. "Just getting gas," she muttered. Another thug circled the back of her car, tapping on the window and peering inside. "Cute kid," he said with a smirk. "Real cute. You sure you don't want some company tonight?" Her heart dropped into her stomach. "Please don't touch my car," she managed, voice trembling. The first man stepped in closer than anyone had the right to, the smell of alcohol and cheap cologne hitting her like a wave. "Relax, we're being friendly." Suddenly, one of them grabbed her wrist, tight, possessive. Mia gasped, pulling back, but his grip only tightened. The station attendant was still nowhere in sight. The rest of the highway looked impossibly empty. She shut her eyes for one desperate second. "Please, someone, anyone." Her pulse hammered against the man's fingers, and the night felt like it was closing in around her. The silence of the night shattered, first a low rumble, then a rising growl that vibrated through the ground beneath Mia's feet. She opened her eyes, breath shaky, unsure if the sound was her imagination or a real lifeline cutting through the darkness. It wasn't thunder. It wasn't a passing truck. It was engines. Dozens of them. Headlights swept across the pavement as a formation of motorcycles rolled off the highway and into the station, moving like a single living organism, swift, intimidating, and perfectly synchronized. The thugs froze mid-sentence, Mia's wrist still trapped in the man's grip, their smug expressions faltering as the bikes approached. Chrome glinted beneath the flickering lights. Leather jackets flashed the unmistakable emblem. A coiled serpent wrapped around a steel wheel, the mark of the Iron Serpent's motorcycle club. They were known in the region, not for causing trouble, but for ending the kind no one else wanted to touch. The bikes fanned out smoothly, surrounding the gas station in a protective arc. Engines cut off one by one, leaving behind a vibrating silence and a thick wave of tension. The lead rider, a tall man with a silver beard braided neatly down his chest, removed his helmet slowly. His eyes, sharp, steady, and cold as winter steel, locked immediately onto Mia, then shifted to the hand clutching her wrist. He didn't need to ask questions. His expression said everything. He stepped forward, boots echoing against the concrete. "Ma'am," he said, voice deep but calm, never breaking eye contact with the thug. "These men bothering you?" Mia opened her mouth, but only air came out. She didn't have to speak. The thug released her wrist instantly, trying to play it cool. "We were just talking, man. No need to get involved." But the other bikers were already stepping off their bikes, forming a semicircle around Mia and the thugs. Their presence alone created an invisible barrier, one the thugs suddenly seemed desperate not to cross. The silver-bearded leader tilted his head slightly, as if assessing how much trouble these men were worth. His voice dropped lower. Didn't look like talking. A few bikers cracked their knuckles. One revved his engine again, the sound sharp and challenging. The thugs shrank without meaning to. And for the first time that night, Mia felt the shift, danger fading, protection closing in. The standoff tightened like a noose around the gas station. For a long moment, no one spoke, just the cold wind sweeping dust across the pavement and the low hum of cooling motorcycle engines. One of the thugs, the one who had been the loudest moments ago, stepped forward with false bravado. His chin jutted out, though his hands trembled slightly. "We said we were just talking," he repeated, louder, as if volume could rebuild the confidence draining from him. "You don't own this place." The silver-bearded biker didn't flinch. He stepped closer until he towered over the man. "Didn't say we did," he replied calmly. "But we don't like seeing people cornered. Especially not women. Especially not moms." A ripple of tension moved through the biker formation. One biker, a broad-shouldered man with tattoos creeping down his neck, cracked his knuckles so loudly it echoed. Another shifted his stance, boots scraping against cement, his expression promising that he was ready to step in the moment things went sideways. The thugs exchanged nervous looks. Their earlier confidence was evaporating fast. Mia finally found her voice, quiet but clear. "They wouldn't leave me alone," she said, arms wrapped protectively around herself. The silver-bearded leader nodded once, slow, deliberate. That was all he needed to hear. He pointed toward the SUV. "Then you're done here. Get in your car and drive. And don't come back." The largest thug scoffed, trying desperately to salvage his pride. "You think we're scared of some old bikers?" A few of the bikers laughed, not mocking, but dangerous. The kind of laugh that promised consequences. The silver-bearded leader stepped even closer. Their faces were inches apart. "Son," he said quietly, "if you weren't scared when you got here, you should be now." The thug finally broke. His eyes darted to the circle of bikers behind him. 20 men built like brick walls, all staring him down with the same cold expression. The kind of men who didn't bluff. "Let's go," he muttered to the others, voice cracking. They retreated quickly, too quickly to look tough, scrambling into their SUV. The engine roared, and the tires squealed as they tore out of the lot, nearly clipping a curb in their haste to escape. Silence settled again, but this time it felt different, safe, steady, protective. Mia let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding, her hands finally stopping their trembling. The moment the SUV disappeared into the night, Mia's knees finally relaxed. The tension that had coiled inside her slowly unwound, leaving behind a shaky breath she couldn't quite steady. For a second, she just stood there, arms wrapped around herself, eyes blinking against tears she refused to let fall. The silver-bearded biker approached her, but this time his expression softened, losing the sharp edge it wore a moment ago. "You're safe now," he said gently, his voice a low rumble. "You okay?" Mia nodded, though the answer wavered. I think so. Thank you." She hesitated, then glanced back at her car. "My son was in there." Her voice cracked, and she pressed a hand over her mouth. The biker's eyes followed hers to the sleeping boy in the back seat. He exhaled slowly, jaw tightening with protective anger, not at her, but at what could have happened. "Nobody," he said firmly, "lays a hand on a kid on our watch." Another biker, younger with sandy hair and a warm smile, approached her gently. "Mind if I check your tires? You were shaking pretty bad. Don't want you driving off with anything unsafe." Mia nodded gratefully. While he knelt beside the car, another biker began filling her tank. He waved off her attempt to hand him her card. "Nope," he said, shaking his head. "You've had enough for one night. Let us handle it." One of the women in the group, her hair braided beneath her helmet, came over and draped a heavier jacket around Mia's shoulders. "You're freezing," she said. "And shock hits harder than you expect." The kindness overwhelmed Mia more than the danger had. Tears finally spilled over, silent and hot. "I don't know how to thank you," she whispered. The silver-bearded leader reached into his vest and pulled out a small black card stamped with the Iron Serpent's emblem. He placed it gently into her hand. "You don't owe us anything. But if you're ever out on the road again, day or night, and something feels wrong, call that number." We ride fast. As Mia got back into her car, the bikers mounted their motorcycles once more. Engines roared to life, not threatening this time, but steady and reassuring. They formed up around her sedan, creating a protective convoy as she pulled onto the highway. For the first time in hours, Mia felt something powerful settle in her chest: safety. Real, unshakable safety. And behind her, the bikes thundered like guardians escorting her home.